The department was giving out bonuses. As a chief physician, I got 3,000, but the administration took a full 50,000. In that moment, I completely lost all my passion for work. From that day on, I started leaving work right on time. After just half a month, the waiting list for all high-difficulty surgeries in the hospital shot up to 3 months. I watched the chaos with cold eyes. This time, I chose to stand by and do nothing. 3 o'clock in the morning. The operating room lights were still a stark white, making my face look drained of all color. The last suture was cut. On the monitor, the lifeline that had dipped into the abyss several times finally rose and fell steadily. Stunned, I took off my sweat-soaked mask, revealing a face that was numb with exhaustion. For a full 12 hours, I had worked like the most precise machine, snatching a child with a complex congenital heart defect back from the jaws of death. Every muscle in my body was screaming in agony, and my brain felt as if it had been drained of its last ounce of energy. Leaving only a void, head nurse Zhang walked over, handing me an envelope, her eyes filled with undisguised sympathy and indignation. "Director Chen, this is the special bonus for this project. Please, take it." The envelope was very thin, feeling weightless, an absurd contrast to my body, which felt as heavy as lead. I pinched it, feeling the texture of a few banknotes through the paper. I didn't open it right away, just nodded at her, and dragged my leaden legs towards the locker room. After changing out of my scrubs, I leaned against the cold locker and finally opened that envelope. 3 crisp, red bills. 3,000 yuan. My hand froze in midair, and my mind went blank with a buzzing sound. 12 hours of intense focus, saving a life on the brink of death. Giving a family a hope of rebirth, and in the end, this is what I got in return, 3,000 yuan. An indescribable chill spread from my heart to every corner of my body in an instant. This wasn't about the amount of money anymore. This was humiliation. Blatant, undisguised humiliation. I walked out of the inpatient building. The cold, pre-dawn wind blew against my face, but it couldn't blow away the dead ashes in my heart. As I passed the brightly lit administration building, a voice, bragging triumphantly, drifted out from a half-open window. Oh man, this thing was not easy. The amount of sweet talking I had to do. The amount of drinking. I finally managed to secure the project. It was the voice of Wang Kai, the director of the administration office. He's the hospital director's own brother-in-law. A man who can't even tell the front from the back of a stethoscope. The bonus? Oh, not much, just 50,000. I'll use it to get a new car. My wife has had her eye on one for a while. 50,000, a new car. I stood frozen in the pitch-black shadows of the trees, looking up at that bright window. The gleaming administration building, and behind me, the inpatient building, soaked in the blood, tears, and hopes of countless patients' families. Felt like 2 different worlds. One was a paradise for scheming and effortlessly raking in cash. It was a hell where I risked my life for a paltry subsidy. I returned to my empty office. The walls are covered with banners praising my noble medical ethics. Miraculous hands, bringer of life. Like a second parent, a debt of gratitude as heavy as a mountain. Each and every banner represented a life I had pulled back from death's door. In the past, they were my pride, the source of my motivation to burn myself out to light the way for others. But now, they look like a sea of mocking faces, silently jeering at my naivety and foolishness. I open my phone. The light from the screen illuminates my expressionless face. I silently find the alarm set for 6 in the morning. With a light tap of my finger on the screen, delete. Then, I set a new alarm. 7:30 in the morning. After doing all this, turn off my phone, and the entire world falls into a dead silence. The next day, for the first time ever, I slept until the sun was high in the sky. I wasn't woken up by the urgent ringing of the phone, nor did I have to rush to the battlefield at the crack of dawn. I had time to make myself a simple breakfast and walk with my elementary school-aged daughter out the door. The sunlight dappled through the leaves onto my body, so warm. I realized then that it had been a very long time since I'd seen the streets of this city during the day. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon sharp, I had just finished a routine heart bypass surgery. I put down my scalpel and took off my white coat. I changed into my own clothes, ready to leave. The department director, Zhang Guodong, hurriedly stopped me. "Lin Yuan, where are you going? There's an emergency consultation tonight. It's a rather tricky case. We need you to take a look." He said it as if it were a matter of course. For the past 10 years, this is how it's always been for me. As long as the hospital needed me, I was on call, with no distinction between day and night, weekdays or weekends. It's quitting time. Zhang Guodong was stunned. It was as if he'd heard the most absurd thing. Quitting time? But there's an emergency case. Is it a critical emergency? I asked. Well, no. The patient's vital signs are stable for now. But the situation is complex, and we'd like you to. Since it's not a critical emergency, I cut him off. Then please schedule it during my working hours. I picked up my bag. I walked past him, leaving him frozen in place with my words. Director, following the regulations, is also a form of medical ethics. It was the first time I had walked out of the hospital gates before the sun had set. Golden sunset stretched my shadow out long. I took a deep breath. It felt like the very air had the sweet taste of freedom. My phone vibrated once. It was a message from my student, Li J. Teacher. Are you okay? This passionate and righteous young man must have sensed something from the commotion in the department. I replied with 2 words. I'm fine. Then I immediately added, get some rest early. I turned off my phone. I smiled. Yes, I'm fine. The ones with the problem will soon be them. My clock out on time policy. Like a stone tossed into a calm lake, at first, it only created a single, insignificant ripple. But in just 1 week, that ripple turned into a monstrous wave. On the cardiac surgery schedule, delay I the column for complex surgeries to be performed by me was already packed solid for the next month. This meant that many patients in urgent need of surgery would have to wait at least 3 more weeks. For a heart patient, waiting even 1 more day adds an unpredictable element of risk. That afternoon, as I was just leaving my office, a middle-aged woman blocked my path. Director Chen, why can't my dad's surgery be moved up? He can't wait that long. Before I could even speak, Li J stepped between us, separating me from her. Ma'am, please calm down. Let's talk this through properly. My mentor's schedule is completely full. It's full. How could it suddenly be full? I heard it wasn't like this before. Her voice attracted a crowd of other patients' families in the hallway. In an instant, all eyes were fixed on me, filled with questions and confusion. I looked at the anxious woman, my heart completely unmoved. I am just an ordinary doctor following hospital rules and regulations. The one who caused all this isn't me. I ignored the commotion and walked straight to the elevator. Behind me, Li J was doing his best to calm the family. At almost the same moment, a call came in from the department head, Zhang Guodong. On the other end of the line, his voice was pleading. Chen Linyuan, I'm begging you. Please work an extra shift tonight. That patient's daughter from just now is about to tear my office apart. I was driving. The evening breeze from the open window felt nice. I turned into the park, planning to play with my daughter for a while on the slide she's been talking about for ages. During my work hours, my efficiency is the highest in the entire hospital, I replied calmly. You are well aware of that. I know, but now's not the time to talk about that. Then when is? I retorted. Is it time for me to continue using my daughter's fatherless childhood to fill holes that shouldn't even exist? The other end of the line went silent. I hung up. From the slide, my daughter's laughter rang out like silver bells. How long has it been since I last did this, at dusk? Enjoying this moment of peace with her? The next day, the hospital director himself called to ask for a chat. In the director's office, a Zisha teapot was brewing high-quality Da Hong Pao tea. The director personally poured me a cup of tea, a look of deep distress on his face. Lin Yuan, I'm the one who promoted you. Your skills, your character. I know them best. You've always been the pride of our hospital. He started by buttering me up. I lifted my teacup. I leisurely blew on the hot steam, not bothering to reply. But what's gotten into you lately? So many patients are waiting for you to save their lives. That's quite a heavy accusation to lay on me, director. I'm not letting my personal feelings get in the way. I'm simply adhering strictly to the labor laws and work regulations the hospital has established for us. An 8-hour workday, clocking in and out right on time. Tell me, what exactly have I done wrong? He was taken aback by my response, and his expression turned sour. The rules are rigid, but people are flexible. As doctors, what is the most important thing for us? Medical ethics. I lifted my gaze. My gaze from behind my gold-rimmed glasses stared at him sharply. My medical ethics are confined to my 8-hour shift. During that time, I give 200% of my focus and skill to save lives, and I have never once made a mistake. I paused, leaning my body slightly forward. Staring into his eyes, I spoke, enunciating every single word. My medical ethics are not a tool to be used by certain people for their incompetence and greed. To freely patch up the holes and gloss over the mess created by their mismanagement of the hospital. The director's face instantly turned ashen. I didn't give him a moment to recover. I took out my phone and pulled up a photo. I pushed it in front of him. It was a screenshot of Wang Kai's social media feed. He was leaning against a brand new, white luxury car, wearing sunglasses. He had a triumphant smile on his face. And the posting time? The day after he received his 50,000 yuan bonus. Director. You see, Director Wang's life is so full of ceremony. Meanwhile, a master craftsman like me, who only gets a 3,000 yuan subsidy, probably only deserves the feeling of being a sacrifice, ready to be on call at any moment. The director's breathing became noticeably heavy. He stared at the jarring photo on the phone screen. His lips trembled a few times, but he couldn't utter a single word. The air in the office seemed to freeze. I knew this conversation was over. Director, if there's nothing else, I'll be going on my rounds now. After all, this is my scheduled work time. I stood up. I straightened my white coat, facing the director, whose face was shifting between pale and livid. I gave him a slight nod and turned to leave, leaving him alone with his gradually cooling cup of tea. That conversation with the director clearly didn't achieve his desired effect, and my practice of leaving on time went from being a personal action, evolving into a silent protest. Seeing that the hardball approach wasn't working, Wang Kai started to try the soft approach, or rather, the underhanded one. Very soon, an anonymous post appeared on the hospital's internal forum. The title was, "Exposing the True Colors of a Certain Technical Guru." Is it really for the patients? The content of the post was full of insinuations. Nowhere did it mention any names, but everyone who read it knew. The so-called technical guru, throwing a tantrum, acting like a prima donna, and ignoring the well-being of patients for money, was me. Chen Linyuan's post painted me as a cold-blooded doctor, corrupted by money, with no medical ethics. It said that because I was unhappy with the subsidies, I intentionally delayed difficult surgeries, using patients as bargaining chips to negotiate with the hospital. The comments below it instantly exploded. Some administrative staff who didn't know the truth righteously accused me of lacking perspective. Some doctors from other departments who didn't understand the situation expressed their disappointment, thinking I had let my emotions get the better of me. Of course, there were also colleagues from cardiothoracic surgery who defended me, but they were quickly drowned out by the flood of replies. For a time, I became the talk of the entire hospital, just in a very disgraceful way. Walking through the hospital, I could clearly feel those strange looks directed at me. Some were contemptuous, some were regretful, and some were gloating. That afternoon, I went to the cafeteria to get lunch. A few girls from the administration office were gathered together, pointing and staring at me, their voices not too loud, not too soft, just loud enough for me to hear. "That's her, right? She looks so quiet and gentle. I can't believe she's so cruel. I know, right? I heard several patients were delayed because of her. Using her skills to do whatever she wants. People like that are the scariest." Just then, Wang Kai, holding his food tray, happened to walk by. He stopped next to me with a look of grave concern. "Dr. Chen, don't take what everyone is saying to heart. It's understandable to be emotional, but to make such a scene, it affects the hospital's reputation, and that's not good for you or me. Right?" He put on the air of a peacemaker, as if this whole storm had nothing to do with him. The stares from those around us instantly intensified. Everyone was waiting to see my reaction. Would I fly into a rage? Or would I try to defend myself? I did nothing. I didn't even glance at him. I just calmly got my food, and holding my tray, walked straight past him. I found a quiet corner and sat down. The hand he had reached out, the hand that was about to pat my shoulder, just froze awkwardly in midair. His face instantly turned the color of a beet. Ignoring someone is a weapon more lethal than any counterattack. That meal, I ate with great relish, while Wang Kai, under the watchful eyes of everyone, became a ridiculous clown. However, the pressure from the gossip still had an effect. Some colleagues I used to be on good terms with started to distance themselves from me, intentionally or not. When we'd meet in the hallway, they would just give a hurried nod, not daring to chat with me like before. The entire cardiothoracic surgery department seemed to be shrouded in a repressive atmosphere. Li Jie was furious, holding his phone. He wanted to go on the forum to argue with those people and expose the fact that Wang Kai embezzled a 50,000 yuan bonus. I stopped him. "Don't pay them any mind. I looked at this young man, whose eyes were still burning with fire, and said calmly, "The truth will speak for itself. If we argue now, it will only make us look guilty. But, teacher, what they were saying was awful. They have no idea how much you've sacrificed for your patients in the past. As long as I know, that's enough." I patted his shoulder. "Let them talk. The higher they jump, the harder they'll fall." Although that's what I said, if I were to say I wasn't troubled at all, that would be a lie. Being isolated, being slandered, no one can truly remain indifferent. I just suppressed all my emotions beneath a mask of calm rationality. The turning point came from an unexpected place. That day, while head nurse Zhang was handing me surgical instruments, she took a moment when no one was looking and whispered to me, "Director Chen, don't pay any mind to that gossip. We all believe in you. We know what kind of person you are. Those of us who are in the operating room with you every day know best." It was just a simple sentence, but it was like a warm current, instantly thawing my frozen heart. An even bigger surprise was still to come. I don't know who did it, but someone posted some of my past deeds online. There was the story of how I once fought to save a new mother who was hemorrhaging, working for 36 consecutive hours to pull her back from the brink of death. There was the old news about me paying for a child's surgery from a poor family out of my own pocket. Even more, some family members of patients I had treated saw the rumors on the hospital forum and came forward on their own to clear my name with their personal experiences. Without Director Chen, my husband would have died 3 years ago. She's a savior to our entire family. Who dares to say she has no medical ethics? I'll be the first one to object. My son is able to run around and go to school today, all thanks to Director Chen's sleepless efforts to save him back then. For those people whispering behind her back, does your conscience not hurt you? The tide of public opinion began to quietly turn. More and more people started to question the hospital's internal management and salary system. A top surgical expert only gets a 3,000 yuan subsidy, while an administrator gets 50,000? Is that reasonable? This is basically forcing good doctors to become disillusioned. We support Dr. Chen. Skilled professionals deserve the pay and dignity that come with their skills. Wang Kai's plot not only failed to isolate me, but it also completely backfired. It turned my character and my skills into my strongest assets, shifting the focus of the conflict right back onto him and the unfair system. I continued to show up for work on time every day and leave on time. After work, I was no longer consumed by endless phone calls and consultations. I finally had time to settle down and research a project I had long shelved on improving artificial heart valves. The wind and rain raged outside my window, but I was completely at peace inside. Let them cause a scene. The real storm was just beginning to brew. Half a month went by, and because I was just doing the bare minimum, the hospital had descended into chaos. The scheduling for those difficult, high-risk cardiothoracic surgeries officially had a waitlist of over 3 months. This meant that the hospital's reputation and core revenue were declining at a visible rate. The entire hospital leadership team was as anxious as ants on a hot pan. And I became the patient fisherman, sitting on the riverbank, just waiting. I knew they were waiting for me to compromise. And I was waiting for an opportunity, a chance for a fatal blow. Late one night, in a way I never expected, it came hurtling toward me. Ring, ring, ring. The shrill ringing of the phone jolted me from a deep sleep. It was a life or death barrage of calls from the dean. I answered impatiently. On the other end, his voice was filled with a panic and urgency I'd never heard before. "Chen Linyuan, hurry, get to the hospital, quick. Something terrible has happened." "What is it?" I asked, rubbing the sleep from my eyes. My tone was cold. The mayor's father, he's had a sudden aortic dissection rupture. He was just brought to our hospital. The situation is extremely critical. Aortic dissection rupture. I was wide awake in an instant. It's one of the most dangerous emergencies in cardiothoracic surgery, with an extremely high mortality rate. The surgery is incredibly difficult. All the cardiothoracic specialists in the city have been called in for an emergency consultation. The conclusion is unanimous. Right now, in the entire city, you're the only one who can give him more than a 50% chance of survival. 50%. To my peers, that was a success rate bordering on a miracle. I said nothing. I knew exactly what this call meant. It wasn't just a request for an emergency rescue. It was a trump card. A card powerful enough for me to flip the entire table. And just like that, so dramatically, it had been dealt right into my hands. "Lin Yuan, Did you hear me? I'll send a car for you right away." "That won't be necessary," I said flatly. Then, I hung up the phone. The entire world fell silent in an instant. Another 20 minutes passed. I heard the screech of a car braking hard downstairs. I walked to the window and lifted a corner of the curtain. The hospital dean's private car was parked right below my apartment building. Dean and Wang Kai. The two of them looked like a couple of beaten dogs. They were standing in the cold wind, anxiously staring up at my window. The winter night's wind whipped their coats around them. They looked absolutely miserable. They didn't call again. It seemed they were afraid of angering me completely, so they just stood there, waiting. I closed the curtain. I went back to bed and pulled the covers over me. I closed my eyes, but I couldn't sleep. I knew that those two people downstairs, and that old man whose life was hanging by a thread in the operating room, were all waiting for my decision. About an hour later, I heard the sound of a hushed argument from downstairs. They probably couldn't take it anymore. I walked to the window again. I saw Wang Kai, his usual arrogance gone, holding a thick manila envelope in his hand. He was bowing and scraping, saying something to the dean. Then, model, the two of them walked into the hallway, one after the other. Soon, there was a knock at the door. I didn't open it. The knocking stopped. From outside the door came the director's hushed voice. "Lin Yuan, I know you're in there. Open the door, let's talk." The director's hushed voice came from outside the door. I still didn't move. "Director Chen, please, you're a bigger man than this. It was all my fault before. I was a fool not to recognize your greatness. Please don't hold it against me. As long as you're willing to help, anything can be negotiated." It was quiet outside for a few seconds. Then, that thick envelope was forcefully shoved under the door. I looked down at the bulging envelope on the floor as a cold smirk formed on my lips. "You should have thought of this sooner. Trying to buy me with money? Who do they take me, Chen Lin Yuan, for?" I walked over, bent down, and picked up the envelope. Then, I opened the door. The director and Wang Kai outside, upon seeing me open the door, had looks of sheer joy instantly appear on their faces. Wang Kai rubbed his hands together, smiling so hard that the wrinkles on his face bunched up. "You see, this is just a little compensation for all your hard work and great contributions before, a small token of our appreciation." I didn't let him finish his sentence. Right in front of them, I took that envelope, along with its contents, and tossed it straight into the trash can by the door. "It's my time off." I looked at their instantly frozen smiles, my voice cold and devoid of warmth. The director's face fell completely. He took a step forward, his voice filled with desperation. "Chen Lin Yuan, a life is at stake. What will it take for you to finally step in? What will it take?" I laughed, but the smile didn't reach my eyes. I looked at their two faces, frantic and utterly pathetic. Slowly, word by word, I asked in return, "Director, that question is what I should be asking you." With that said, I looked away from them and prepared to close the door. "You want me to do the surgery? Fine." I left them with my resolute back turned to them. And one final sentence: "After sunrise, we will hold a hospital-wide assembly and discuss this publicly." With a slam, the door shut behind me. I could imagine those two men outside, in the bone-chilling wind. And what an ashen look they must have on their faces. I leaned against the door, listening to their stumbling footsteps fade away. Tonight, many people were destined for a sleepless night. The phone in the mayor's office would probably ring once every half hour. Each time, it would be like death by 1,000 cuts for the director and Wang Kai. They were panicking, completely panicking. At 8:30 the next morning, the hospital's largest conference room was filled with people. All the mid-level and senior managers in the hospital, the directors and head nurses of every department. Not a single person was missing, everyone was present. Everyone wore a complex expression, a mix of gravity, curiosity, and excitement. They all knew why this meeting had been called. The mayor's father was still lying in the ICU, waiting for me, the only person who could save him, to give the word. And I had the entire hospital leadership team, right where I wanted them. Li Jie and I walked into the conference room together. Instantly, all eyes in the room focused on me. I looked straight ahead and walked directly to the front row, to my seat, and sat down. Li Jie sat beside me, his young face slightly flushed with nervousness and excitement. He clenched his fists, like a soldier about to go into battle. The conference room was eerily quiet. You could hear a pin drop. The dean sat on the dais, his face ashen, his eyes sunken. He looked as if he had aged 10 years overnight. Next to him, Wang Kai was even paler, fidgeting restlessly. He kept wiping the cold sweat from his forehead with a tissue. The dean picked up the microphone. He cleared his throat, his voice hoarse. "Colleagues, we've called this urgent meeting today because there is a very important and very urgent matter. As we all know, the mayor's father is in critical condition." He started with difficulty. Then, his tone shifted as he turned his gaze to me. His eyes pleading. "Chen Linyuan, I know that recently, with some of the work arrangements at the hospital, you have been treated unfairly. But, I hope you can consider the bigger picture and prioritize the patient's life." The bigger picture again. I didn't wait for him to finish. I stood up and walked onto the stage. Everyone gasped. I took the USB drive from Li Jie's hand, plugged it into the computer, and opened the PowerPoint I had stayed up all night preparing. The first slide lit up the projection screen. There were no complex charts, no flowery words. Only two huge, bright red numbers and two starkly contrasting photos. One was the envelope with my 3,000 yuan subsidy. The other was a screenshot of the bank transfer for Wang Kai's 50,000 yuan bonus. This screenshot was from someone in the finance department who couldn't stand him and had sent it to me anonymously. Chen Linyuan, Chief Cardiothoracic Surgeon, Special Project Subsidy, 3,000 yuan. Wang Kai, Director of the Administrative Office, Special Project Subsidy, 50,000 yuan. The entire room erupted. "My God, that's such a huge difference. This is outrageous. Director Chen saves a life with every surgery. And gets 3,000? That Wang Kai just drinks tea and reads the newspaper in his office all day. What gives him the right to get 50,000? This is corruption, utter corruption." The murmurs spread like a tidal wave, exploding through the conference room. Wang Kai's face. His face instantly went pale as a sheet, and he shot to his feet, pointing at me, his lips trembling. "You're making malicious accusations. This is slander." I ignored his desperate struggle. I calmly looked at all my colleagues in the audience. Seeing the shocked, angry, and indignant expressions on their faces, I slowly began to speak. "I am Chen Linyuan, an attending cardiac surgeon at the First Municipal Hospital. I stand here today, not for my own personal grievance. I just want to ask one question. For us medical staff who fight on the front lines, our skills, our sleepless nights, are they really so worthless?" My voice wasn't loud, but it reached everyone's ears clearly. The entire conference hall was dead silent. I switched to the next PPT slide, which clearly listed my 3 conditions. "Today, if you want me to pick up a scalpel again, that's fine. I have 3 conditions. First, effective immediately. Publicly post a detailed breakdown of all project subsidies and bonus distributions throughout the hospital for the past 1 year. Every single transaction must be crystal clear, with no omissions whatsoever. Second, the director of the administrative office, Wang Kai, as well as the relevant leaders of the hospital administration, must, regarding this incident of unfair subsidy distribution, to me, and to all the frontline medical staff who have been treated unfairly, give a public bow of apology. Third, immediately dissolve the current, practically useless compensation committee and establish a new one. Among its members, the number of representatives from the frontline clinical medical staff must not be less than 50%. We want to take back what is rightfully ours. Our voice, every condition, was like a bombshell detonating in the conference room. The eyes of the young doctors began to gleam. The nurses, who had been suppressed for years, clenched their fists in excitement. The director's hand, holding the microphone, was trembling violently. He wanted to object, to refuse. Just then, his phone began to vibrate urgently. He glanced at the screen as if he had been burned. His hand jerked violently. I saw it clearly. The caller ID read, "Mayor's Secretary." He tremblingly pressed the answer key. He even forgot to step aside, although the voice on the phone wasn't loud. In the silent conference hall, the people in the first few rows could hear it perfectly. "Director, the mayor asked me to tell you. No matter what, you must ask Director Chen to perform the surgery. All his conditions can be discussed." That sentence was the final straw that broke the camel's back. The director hung up the phone, looking as if all the strength had been drained from him. He looked at me, defeated, and then picked up the microphone, and with all his might, squeezed out a few words. On behalf of the hospital, he agreed to all of Director Chen's demands. At first, the entire room fell dead silent. Then, a thunderous applause erupted. Li Jie and a group of young doctors were so excited they leapt up. I turned off the PowerPoint and unplugged the USB drive. I turned and walked off the stage. I walked to the door, looked back at the director, who was still stunned on the stage, and said calmly, "Now, prepare for surgery." After saying that, I pulled open the door and walked out. Outside, Lee Jae and a group of young doctors and nurses were waiting for me. When they saw me come out, in their eyes, there was only light. I knew that from this moment on, some things had already changed. I thought the victory in the public negotiation would be the end of this turmoil. But I had underestimated the shamelessness and bitterness of certain people. On the day of the surgery, I finished all the pre-op preparations and walked into the operating room. The moment I pushed the door open, I could feel the strange atmosphere. Besides my team, there was an uninvited guest in the operating room. Zhao Dehai, a cardiothoracic surgery professor from a top hospital in the capital. He was also my longtime academic arch-rival. His skills were decent, but he was narrow-minded and especially loved to steal credit and put on airs. His reputation in our circle wasn't good. Why was he here? The director and Wang Kai followed behind him, with extremely unnatural smiles on their faces. Seeing me enter, the director awkwardly made the introduction. "Let me introduce you. This is Professor Zhao Dehai from the capital. We were thinking, this surgery is of great importance. So we specially invited Professor Zhao to co-supervise. Just as a double insurance, you see." Double insurance? I sneered inwardly. This was hardly double insurance. This was clearly a ticking time bomb they had planted for me. Zhao Dehai looked at me with a smirk and extended his hand. "Lin Yuan, long time no see. I heard you ran into a little situation here, couldn't schedule the surgery. I happened to have some free time, so I came over to help you hold down the fort." His words were filled with condescending patronage and subtle mockery. The phrase, "hold down the fort," was especially jarring. I saw through their scheme in an instant. If the surgery was successful, credit would be split with him, half of it, or even more. The media reports would say it was the expert from the capital who saved the day, working with local doctors to cure the mayor's father. If the surgery failed, then the responsibility would fall on me, the lead surgeon. As a supervising expert, he could completely absolve himself of all blame. What was even more vicious was that as long as the surgery was a success, the director and Wang Kai could justifiably prop him up as the new technical authority. Under the pretext of helping the City First Hospital improve its technical skills, they would keep him here permanently. And thus, completely sideline me. What a move, pulling the rug right out from under me. I looked at the three men before me, each with their own hidden agenda, as a murderous rage churned inside me. But on the surface, I remained as calm as still water. I didn't shake Zhao Dehai's hand. I just gave a faint nod. "Fine, since you're here to provide guidance, we'll be counting on you, Professor Zhao." Turned to the head nurse, my voice leaving no room for argument. "Get him a set of scrubs. He'll be my first assistant." First assistant? Zhao Dehai's expression changed in an instant. He was a renowned professor from the capital, an authority figure respectfully invited to guide the surgery. And I had just assigned him to be a mere assistant. This was the ultimate humiliation. He was about to explode, but I had already turned and walked towards the scrub sink, giving him no chance to object. "Prepare for surgery." Those three cold words announced the start of the operation, and the formal start of this invisible battle in the operating room. Surgery began. Under the shadowless lamp, scalpel in hand, I made an incision into the patient's chest cavity. Zhao Dehai, as the first assistant, stood opposite me. His face livid, his eyes filled with resentment and venom. He began to criticize constantly. "Lin Yuan, you could make this incision a bit larger for better exposure. Be careful when dissecting the tissue here. Don't damage the nerve." He used the tone of a teacher scolding a student, trying to establish his authority in front of my team and dictate the rhythm of the entire operation. The surgery entered a critical phase. We needed to clamp the ascending aorta and establish cardiopulmonary bypass. Zhao Dehai suddenly spoke up again. "Lin Yuan, I suggest using deep hypothermic circulatory arrest. Just recently published a paper on this technique. Using it here, the results would be better, and it would be more innovative." I stopped what I was doing and looked up. Through my protective goggles, I stared at him coldly. "Professor Zhao," I said, enunciating every word, "this is an operating table, not a simulation for you to publish a paper. Our job is to save a life, not to conduct an experiment." The moment I finished speaking, the atmosphere in the operating room dropped to a freezing point. This was a public slap in the face. Zhao Dehai's face turned beet red. The surgery continued. The most critical step was next. the vascular anastomosis at the site of the aortic dissection. Requires suturing on the paper-thin vessel wall with a suture thinner than a strand of hair. This is my signature technique, the very foundation of my career. Just as I was preparing to perform it myself, Zhao Dahai, in an attempt to save face and to prove himself, actually snatched the needle holder from my hand. This kind of delicate work is better left to me. I have more experience than you. He gave me absolutely no chance to refuse. And bent over. My pupils contracted instantly. Don't move, but it was too late. Perhaps it was nerves, or perhaps he was too eager to show off. Zhao Dahai's hand gave an almost imperceptible, extremely slight tremor. And it was that tremor that caused the sharp tip of the suture needle, under his control, to deviate from its intended path, not piercing through, but slicing open the already fragile wall of the blood vessel. Rip! A faint yet fatal tearing sound was heard. Bright red blood, like a bursting dam, instantly gushed out from the tear. Beep, 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 beep. On the monitor, the blood pressure reading plummeted, letting out a piercing, shrill alarm. Massive hemorrhage, blood pressures dropped to 60. Heart rate is falling. In the operating room, chaos erupted in an instant. The faces of Li Jie and the nurses instantly turned deathly pale. Standing in the observation room, the hospital director and Wang Kai, watching the surgery through the glass and on the screen, were scared out of their wits. Their legs went weak, and they nearly collapsed to the floor. None of them could have imagined that the hired gun they brought in to deal with me would personally push the patient into the abyss of death. Everybody, move! A low shout, like a clap of thunder on a clear day, echoed through the chaotic operating room. I shoved aside the stunned and helpless Zhao Dahai, reclaiming my position as the lead surgeon. In that instant, my mind entered a state of absolute, cold calm. There was no time for anger, no time to assign blame. All I could see before me was that widening tear, and the life signal on the monitor that was about to flatline. Suction, gauze, apply pressure, increase the bypass flow. My commands were clear, concise, and could not be questioned. The team, which had been in a panic, upon hearing my voice, instantly found its backbone. Like precision gears, they began to operate at high speed once more. The coordination between Li Jie and the nurses was flawless. Years of tacit understanding were on full display at this moment. The passing of instruments was timed to the second. The execution of commands was precise and on point. My hands moved quickly and precisely within the small, bloody chest cavity. Those hands moved so fast they almost left afterimages. Everyone's eyes were glued to my hands, they even forgot to breathe. Zhao Dahai stood to the side like a soulless puppet, moving from shock to dejection. Finally, his face was covered in a cold sweat. He watched what I was doing, his eyes filled with disbelief. He knew he had messed up, and he knew even more, that what I was doing was completely beyond his realm of understanding. Conventional repair methods were already too late, and they wouldn't have succeeded anyway. In that moment, a dozen different plans flashed through my mind, and I rejected each one. In a flash, an extremely bold, even unthinkable, idea. An idea formed in my mind. I will use a completely new, improvised and improved surgical technique. To complete this incredible comeback, I didn't directly suture the tear. Instead, I used the surrounding healthy tissue to perform a clever reconstruction. This procedure requires a god-like understanding of the heart's anatomy, and an almost superhuman, precise judgment of space and mechanics. In less than 5 minutes, when I cut the final suture, a miracle happened. The torrential bleeding was brought completely under control. I repaired that fatal tear in a way that was almost a work of art, perfectly patching and reconstructing it. The blood pressure on the monitor started to rise. Blood pressure 80, 95, 110. It's stable. Heart rate is back to normal. The bleeding has stopped. Li Jie's voice was filled with the ecstatic relief of a survivor and an irrepressible admiration. In the operating room, everyone let out a long sigh of relief. Some even collapsed right there on the floor. I stood up. The immense strain made my vision blur for a moment. The surgery was a success. And it was a perfect success, in a way that went far beyond anyone's imagination. I took off my surgical gown, which was soaked in blood and sweat, and tossed it into the disposal bin. I walked over to Zhao Dahai, whose face was ashen. He looked at me, his lips trembling, trying to say something, but he couldn't get a single word out. Shame, fear, and the despair of being crushed by absolute skill were written all over his face. He knew That from this day forward, in the world of cardiac surgery, he would never be able to hold his head high again. I looked at him and said coolly, "Professor Zhao, next time you decide to supervise, remember to update your skill set. And another thing, the operating table isn't a stage for fame and glory. A human life is not a tool for you to show off your skills." After I said that, I ignored him and walked straight out of the operating room. Zhao Dehai was so utterly humiliated that he bought a plane ticket that very night and scurried away from the city where he'd suffered such a crushing defeat. In the observation room, the hospital director and Wang Kai were slumped in their chairs, drenched in a cold sweat. They watched me walk out, their eyes filled with terror. They knew that the final card they had to play against me had not only failed to harm me in the slightest, but had instead been shattered by me in the most brilliant and decisive way. Smashed to smithereens. My phone rang. It was the mayor himself calling. On the line, his voice almost breaking, he thanked me over and over again. After he finished thanking me, his tone shifted. He casually asked, "Director Chen, I've heard that recently, within the hospital, there seems to be some unpleasant turmoil." I looked at the two ashen-faced figures in the observation room and smiled. "Yes, Mayor, regarding the management of the hospital, I have some materials that might be relevant to the city's current anti-corruption initiative within the medical system. It may be of some value. The success of your father's surgery, and the fact that it succeeded in such a dramatic, life-saving fashion, has boosted my reputation at the first municipal hospital to an all-time high." Everyone witnessed firsthand what an undeniable skill gap looks like. They also saw for themselves the clumsy schemes of a few clowns, and how easily they fall apart in the face of true talent. The hospital was forced to follow through on its promise from the last general meeting, and on its internal system. It published the details of all subsidies and bonuses from the past year. The moment that Excel sheet was released, the entire hospital erupted. The hard work and meager pay of the frontline medical staff stood in shocking contrast to the numerous and enormous bonuses of the administrative and logistics departments. Especially Wang Kai. Besides a 50,000 yuan project subsidy, his various management contribution awards and coordination awards added up to an annual bonus that was more than 3 times what I, the top cardiac surgeon, make. The whole hospital was furious. Countless people on the internet demanded that Wang Kai be severely punished, and that the administrative system be reformed. Under immense pressure, the director had no choice but to announce Wang Kai's temporary suspension, pending an internal investigation. But I knew this was just for show. As long as the director remains in his position, he has countless ways to protect his brother-in-law. Once the heat dies down, Wang Kai can easily come back under a different title and continue to act like a tyrant. I can't pin my hopes on their self-correction. What I want is to pull this problem out by the roots. Late that night, Li Jie knocked on my office door. He looked around secretively, took a USB drive from his coat, and placed it on my desk. "Doctor, this is something I came across by accident. I think you should have it." I looked at his bloodshot eyes and asked, "What is this?" Li Jie lowered his voice. Wang Kai and his wife secretly registered a medical device company. For the past 2 years, most of the high-value medical supplies for our cardiac surgery department, like heart valves and vascular stents, have all been purchased from this company. My heart sank, and I compared the market prices. The prices their company charges our hospital are at least 30% higher than the normal price. It's obvious how much dirty business is going on. On the USB drive are the contracts and invoices he secretly exported from the procurement system, as well as the information he found on the business registry, showing Wang Kai's wife as the company's legal representative. There are also a few blurry recordings of Wang Kai meeting privately with the suppliers. The chain of evidence is basically complete. This is like a giant parasite latched onto the heart of the hospital, greedily sucking the blood of the hospital and its patients. I stared at the USB drive on my desk. It felt like a branding iron, radiating a dangerous heat. I looked up at Li Jie, my gaze more serious than ever before. "Have you really thought this through? Once this is out, there's no turning back. This means a fight to the death with them." Li Jie's gaze was incredibly resolute. "Teacher, I've thought it through. I studied medicine to save people, to become a pure doctor, just like you. I don't want to see people like you, who truly fight for their patients, get bullied and exploited by parasites like Wang Kai. This hospital is sick. It needs someone to perform a major surgery on it." Looking at the light in this young man's eyes, my heart was filled with a mix of emotions. It was like seeing myself from over 7 years ago. I took the USB drive. I stood up and patted his shoulder firmly a few times. Well done. As for what comes next, leave it to me. I wasn't naive enough to hand this fatal piece of evidence to the hospital's disciplinary department. That would be like handing a knife to the enemy's ally. I spent the whole night categorizing all the data on the USB drive, organizing it into a report with clear logic and solid evidence. Then, using a newly registered, anonymous email address, I sent the materials directly to the public whistleblower email address for the Municipal Discipline Inspection Commission. By the time I finished all this, the sky was already beginning to lighten. I didn't stop. I opened my phone, found the mayor's secretary's phone number, and sent him a message. The message was short, but every word carried immense weight. Thank you for the mayor's concern regarding my father's condition. Also, regarding the management issues at our hospital, I've personally compiled some materials. I wonder if they might be of some reference value for the anti-corruption initiative in the medical system that the city is currently promoting. I didn't directly mention Wang Kai. I didn't mention corruption. I just cleverly linked the words, materials, and anti-corruption initiative together. I believe that with the mayor's wisdom, he would understand the meaning behind my words. I also believe that given the favor of saving a life, he would give me a just response. Send. I put down my phone, looking at the dawn breaking outside the window. This time, I bet everything. The last straw that breaks the camel's back. I've already placed it. Now, just have to wait for the colossal crash. Early the next morning, as soon as I arrived at the hospital, I saw several black sedans with special license plates parked quietly in front of the administration building. A few serious, unsmiling men got out of the cars. They walked straight into the building. Some of the well-informed people in the hospital had already started whispering, "The people from the Municipal Discipline Inspection Commission are here. I heard they've formed a joint investigation team and are stationed at our hospital now." At 10 in the morning, I was doing my rounds. A huge commotion came from the direction of the administration building. I walked to the window in the hallway and looked out. I saw Wang Kai being escorted out of the administration building, held up by a man on each side. His once slick and shiny hair was as messy as a bird's nest, and his face was drained of all color. He was still shouting, "I didn't do it. I was framed. It was Chen Linyuan. She's the one who framed me." He saw me standing by the window. His venomous gaze shot towards me like a snake. I stared back at him, expressionless. I watched as he was ruthlessly shoved into a black sedan, the door slamming shut. It cut off his final, crazed shouts. Everyone was stunned by the scene. Immediately after, the director was also escorted from his office by the investigation team. They said he was going to assist with the investigation. He kept his head bowed. Overnight, it was as if his very backbone had been ripped out. He left and never came back. The entire hospital was thrown into a state of seismic shock. The administration building was sealed off. All the accounting computers were seized on the spot. The usually arrogant administrative staff were now all scared silent. They were terrified of being the next one to be taken away. Meanwhile, in the frontline clinical departments, the atmosphere was completely different. The air, heavy with long suppressed resentment, seemed to have finally been cleared, although no one dared to discuss it openly. The irrepressible glint of delight in their eyes said it all. The investigation team was astonishingly efficient. Faced with irrefutable evidence, Wang Kai's psychological defenses quickly crumbled. He not only confessed to abusing his authority to control the procurement of hospital supplies, in collusion with a company run by his wife, to embezzle massive amounts of state assets and accept huge kickbacks. In an attempt to get a lighter sentence, he exposed the entire web of corruption, revealing all the dirty dealings and transfers of benefits. He spilled everything. The amount of money involved was so huge, and the number of people implicated so vast, that it sent shockwaves through the city's entire health system. A top-down anti-corruption storm, with City First Hospital at its epicenter, quickly began to rage, and as for me, the one who had ignited the storm, I seemed to be completely outside of it. I went about my days as usual, doing my rounds, conducting consultations, and going into surgery. The raging tempest outside seemed to have no effect on me whatsoever. Li Jie ran into my office, ecstatic, gesticulating wildly as he reported the latest developments. "Teacher, Wang Kai has been formally arrested. The director's been detained for investigation too. I heard several department heads from admin have already turned themselves in." I simply nodded and handed him a patient's chart. I know. Go get me the test results for the patient in bed 3. Lee Jae looked at my calm, impassive face, and his excitement slowly subsided. He scratched his head, a little confused. Teacher, we won. Why aren't you the least bit excited? I looked up at him. This isn't about winning or losing. We just took back what should have been ours all along. We put certain people and things back where they belong. The next day, word came that Wang Kai had been sentenced to 15 years in prison. The director was removed from his post and handed over to the judicial system for prosecution. Corruption scandal at City First Hospital became a textbook case for the cleanup of the city's entire medical system. In the wake of this mess, the higher authorities responded swiftly. They decided to bring in a new director from a top-tier teaching hospital in the capital. To oversee the rebuilding of City First Hospital, the new director's name was Lin Jungdu, a cardiovascular specialist with a nationwide reputation, known for his rigorous style, respect for technique, and iron-fisted management. Everyone knew that this was a true expert who really understood the field. Not some bureaucrat who got the position through connections. On Director Lin's first day, unlike the leaders before him, he didn't start by calling a hospital-wide meeting to give some empty, formal speech. The first thing he did was put on a white coat and start from the emergency department, visiting the clinical departments one by one, without a large entourage. He only brought one secretary to take notes. Wherever he went, he would chat with the frontline doctors and nurses, asking about their workload, asking about their salaries and benefits, asking about their career development. When he made his way to cardiac surgery and arrived at my office, I was watching a recording of a surgery. He didn't have his secretary announce him, but just stood there quietly behind me, watching for a while. The work on the left coronary artery, beautifully done. Calm, strong voice sounded from behind me. I turned around and saw this legendary new director. He was about 60 years old. His hair was graying, but he was full of spirit. His gaze was sharp and clear, and he carried himself with the refined air of a scholar and the authority of a leader. I stood up. Director Lin. He waved his hand, gesturing for me to sit down. He pulled up a chair himself and sat across from me. Without any pleasantries, he got straight to the point. Chief Chen, before I came here, I watched the entire recording of your recent aortic dissection surgery. I also heard about everything that happened here before. He looked at me, his gaze filled with admiration and approval. I came here, and the first thing I want to do is to formally invite you to serve as the Vice Director of Medical Affairs for our Municipal First Hospital. I was stunned. Vice Director, a position I had never even considered for myself, was suddenly being placed right in front of me. To be honest, I was hesitant. After going through so many upheavals, my heart was tired. I just wanted to go back to being purely a doctor, far from complicated administrative duties and office politics. I expressed my thoughts to him frankly. Director Lin, thank you for your trust, but I may not be suited for a management role. I just want to focus on doing surgery well. Director Lin smiled. His smile was gentle. Lin Yuan, I understand your feelings. But have you ever considered this? A good system, more than a single good doctor, can save many more people. He looked at me, his gaze becoming incredibly deep and sincere. Only when you are in that position can you truly protect more good doctors like you, who work their hearts out on the clinical front lines. Only then can you ensure that their scalpels do not become dull because their hearts have grown cold. That's right, my one-man rebellion might bring a temporary victory, but if the system doesn't change, if the foundation remains the same, then the next Wang Kai, another unjust incident, will happen again sooner or later. My own strength is limited. After a long silence, I finally spoke. I accept, but I have my conditions as well. First, I want to exceptionally promote a group of talented and responsible young doctors, represented by Lee Jae. Give them a platform. Second, the reform plan for the entire hospital's salary system must be under my complete control. Director Lin smiled. He stood up, extended his hand to me, and said, "No problem. We'll do it together."